Most of us think we see a place before we visit it through photos, but that's not seeing in a neutral sense. It's a kind of translation. Someone chose the frame, the moment, the subject, the caption, the mood, and by the time an image teaches us, it isn't only showing a place, it's telling us what to feel about that place and what to ignore. Today, I'm speaking with a photographer whose work lives exactly in that tension between art and audience, ethics and attention, and the commercial incentives that quietly shape what the world looks like to the rest of us. This is Reading the World, قراءة العالم. In this podcast, reading isn't limited to books. It's a method used in the humanities to understand how meaning is produced through language, context, power, perspective, and translation. And today we are reading something that many people treat as self evident images, specifically travel photography, and the stories images teach us to believe about places. My guest is Ausra Osipaviciute, a freelance photographer and videographer from Lithuania based in the UAE and the founder of the Road Reel through road trips, itineraries, and hiking guides to less visited destinations. She helps independent travelers move beyond the obvious, and she approaches travel as visual storytelling, not just showing where something is, but shaping what it means. Osra, welcome to Reading the World.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you for having me here.
I'm glad you are here. I want to start with a simple premise. Travel photography isn't just documentation, it's interpretation. And I'd love to explore that with you in a concrete way. When people hear travel photography, what do you think they assume it is? And what do you wish they understood instead?
Well, I guess it depends on a person, but first thing that comes into my mind with your question, travel photography, obviously showing places, showing destinations you've never been to. And for me, it is a feeling that this photograph of the place gives. So I'm guessing for people who are looking at the travel photographs, depending on the photograph, also gets a certain sense of the place. Maybe they want to go there, maybe it looks scary for them, maybe it looks calming. So yeah, basically travel photography is expression of the unknown place or maybe known place through someone's eyes.
When you say visual storytelling matters, what does storytelling mean in a single frame before we even talk about the series?
Yes, so in a single frame, to be honest, it's kind of difficult to tell the story, maybe just like a fragment of it, most likely, because it's a frozen moment in time and you can only tell that much. But definitely, the image will give a certain sensation. And if it doesn't, I say it's a kind of the image failed. But, anyways, it gives you some kind of either understanding if it's a busy place, if it's a calm place, if it's a cold or hot place through different visual signals that are in the picture. So, of course, ideally, if you can tell a part of a story through the image, and that gives also feeling and a little bit of story, that's fantastic. But as I say, it's not always like that. Maybe that travel photography has to be like a guidebook postcard type. I don't think it has to be. I think it can be anything as long as it's portraying the space. Not maybe as long as it's portraying but it doesn't have to be polished or beautified necessary. And travel photography is always about beautiful images. It's about anything you see.
For today, I want to treat your photography as a kind of translation practice. Translation without words, not true versus false, but what gets carried across, what gets lost, and what gets edited out. Before we go there, I want to understand your background. You mentioned you are more experienced in editorial photography, portraiture, and fashion. and that those skills translate well into travel and street. What specifically translates and what doesn't?
Okay, so here I want to correct a little bit. Actually, my journey started from my photography journey started together with travel. So I actually started photography because of traveling. I went to Italy, Venice, the first time on my own, and that's when I kind of got interested into photography, and not for the sake of showing myself that look at me, I was there, but more of a showing a place in an artistic way to create the sense of the space of the town, of the people. And slowly, slowly, I kind of got caught into this fashion world. I took interest in photographing models and started experimenting with my friends, learning from the pictures I see on magazines. I wanted to learn to create those beautiful fashion images. Again, it wasn't something like catalog style. I was interested more into artistic part of it. So I kind of dove deep into that. And after some practicing and creating some pictures, I finally got my first pictures published in the magazine in Lithuania, which was surreal. And traveling came like parallel. I would still travel and I would still definitely take images and more like of the local life, less of the fashion. But it's always been travel that really draws me to photography, and I travel to photograph. I can say that. And ideally, if I can merge the two worlds together in the picture, that's like amazing. If I have a photo shoot where I can play around with the travel concept and fashion, it becomes very interesting to me. So yeah, but working in the editorial space, it taught me as well how to tell kind of a story, how to complete the sequence of images, because they shouldn't be like all the same. It has to be some kind of mood created through maybe 5, 6, whatever number of images it is. So now when I travel, I also try to think, okay, I am photographing the place. If I wanted to just to collect a small collection of images to show to somebody, can I cover with them and give the person an idea of what it feels like to be there, or what it is the place about, or the event in the place about? So things like that.
In literature, we often talk about the narrator, who speaks, from where, and with what authority. In photography, the camera position is a kind of narrator too, an angle that claims a viewpoint. So let me ask you this in that spirit. When you photograph a place for an audience that's not from there, what responsibility do you feel, if any, to avoid turning the place into a stereotype?
The first thing is it depends where you are. Is it some place that is commonly seen by people? Is it something super famous like Burj Khalifa in Dubai? Or is it something people have never been to, let's say some small village in Lithuania nobody knows about? But to be honest, like I don't like try or not try to turn into stereotype. I just photograph the place through my eyes. And if it's a famous place, and usually I don't want to get the same postcard angle unless it's so wow, so I just get it for myself. I look for the way to maybe show it from a different perspective, that like, look what this place is actually like. Because nowadays in social media especially, there are certain places where everyone goes to take a picture, and it gives an idea that this place is, for example, empty and serene, and there is nobody around, only you are enjoying this beautiful view in silence. And then the reality is like it's a big crowd behind you waiting to take the same photo. So to be honest, I'd rather take that and show the reality than just add to another 1 billion of the same lying pictures. I mean, they are not lying, but they distort people's expectations about the place.
Let's define the term for listeners. If we say a photograph is a form of translation, what exactly is being translated?
The translation in photograph, it's like as if you are translating from, let's say, Arabic to English, and you want a viewer to understand what they see. So the way you will capture it, at the time you will capture it, it can also give a completely different feeling of the space. So you have to think how you want to show the space. Do you want to show it as some kind of dreamy place or some kind of hectic place? Having that in mind, you include these things in your photograph. So if you have a certain aim, maybe you don't have any aim and you're just snapping away. But let's say we are like conscious photographers and we really want to showcase a place in a certain mood. You have to think of the elements that makes this place to be what you feel like it is. Because again, it's so subjective. It can be one photograph and different people looking at it, seeing different things. For example, there is a beautiful landscape of foggy hill and a tree, lonely tree standing. For one person, it can look as, wow, it's so calming and nice. For another one, no, it's depressing, it's boring, I don't want to be here, it looks cold. So again, the picture, it transmits some kind of sense, but the perception of what person sees in that picture can be completely different.
One idea I keep thinking about is the context. Is that context collapse? How an image travels far away from its original context, caption, and intention. Have you had moments where a photo you made was interpreted in a way that surprised you, or where you realized the audience bought a story you didn't intend?
That can totally happen, I'm sure. If you, okay, let's say you take a photo and you explain what it is. So you're kind of pushing your opinion to the viewer. On the other hand, if you leave it out without any words and leave for interpretation, of course, you can get different reactions. Now I'm trying to remember if this happened to me. I do remember one actually not very pleasant situation when I was trying to make a place in Dubai look attractive and interesting and cool, where we're doing a fashion shoot in one of the old parts of Dubai. And we were like including local people. We asked them, is it okay you be in our picture? So it was kind of more like of a personal project of mine, which later got published. So it was kind of to show the nice colors, movement, it's just very pure artistic moment. And we got on Instagram really angry messages like, oh, you are using these people to make money. And the thing is, it was not commercial shoot. It was artistic shoot. And while I received a really good response from most of the people, they said, oh, how you came up with this idea? This is so cool, like fashion, because the place is very photogenic. It's like type of places I like to photograph. It's not polished, so it gives me a lot of textures, colors. And I also thought, okay, let me have some local people so it comes more alive than only just our model. Yeah, and one reaction was really like very negative, and I'm like, come on. So yeah. So that's the story.
Are you fine with the idea that meaning is not controllable?
I mean, I can't control everything. So I do my best to translate it through the image, what I would like it to be. But again, there are 8 billion people in the world. You cannot force the meaning on one.
I understand. Yeah, it's like reading. So I want to give listeners a quick tool for reading images. When you see a travel photo, ask what's inside the frame and what's excluded. Who benefits from this being the story of that place? What emotion is the image trying to produce? If you had to add one question listeners should always ask when they see a travel image, what would it be?
If they see a travel image as a person who is just curious about the place or someone who is learning how to create travel images, because it could be two different questions.
You can give us two different answers.
Okay, so let's say someone who wants to travel to the place, probably their question would be, do I want to go there? Because, I'm planning a trip. I want to experience. Does this picture makes me want to go there? So that's from the travelers who is willing to travel and see the world, not necessary for photography perspective. For somebody who is maybe learning about travel photography, it should be a question about if the picture what is that inside this picture that make me curious, or what is that in the picture that makes this picture work well. I'm assuming that they are looking at some amazing travel picture and they are curious what really makes me stop and say, wow, this is a really good, interesting picture. It really gives me a lot of different feelings or one particular feeling. Yeah, so you have to kind of learn to analyze photography if you want to yourself become a better photographer and understand what makes the picture good. So basically, as I say, in the picture, there should be like important elements which take the main scene. So like visual signals, you can say, visual anchors, something like that, that you look at a picture and you see, okay, this picture is about this subject. This is what it is about. And there can be maybe more than one of this signal, but they are all together in harmony, and it's not like 1 billion of other things are competing for your attention and you don't know what is this about. What does it portray, like this.
Interesting. Very great answer. You said you are especially interested in the ethical considerations, and I agree. They are often treated like an afterthought. So let's make it central. In travel and street photography, where do you draw the ethical line? What feels clearly acceptable and what feels like extraction?
So I think like if you're coming with a sincere intention to show the place, whether it's beautiful or whether it's some place where people struggle, and as long as you are not looking down, let's say, at your subject or purposely trying to diminish the place or the person you photograph, I think it is. But as well, taking portraits, if someone clearly doesn't agree, leave it out. You wouldn't go, obviously, to maybe someone's house without their permission and start taking pictures. Or, as I say, like I was really thinking about this question, and while I don't have like which subject I should photograph or I shouldn't, I think it's interesting to photograph everything. But there are things, like I remember it in one of my trips, like I was in Lisbon and I saw a man, homeless man on the street. You kind of can take a picture and see, oh, look how life is in the city. But I feel like it's so bad for this human being to be shown in such a position. And this I would hate for myself. So I wouldn't do something that I would hate for myself. So if I'm not okay with that, I'm sure the other person, whether he's homeless or desperate or in whatever situation, it's not okay. Many things is just reality, but again, what do you achieve with this photo exactly? Where will it go? Who will it see? How it will affect, people? Photographing sensitive things, you have to be careful because you don't want this photograph to negatively impact someone. Either the person being photographed or whoever sees that and gets some kind of, I don't know, bad outcome. As long as you don't hurt anyone with your pictures, that's fine. But then travel photography, it covers a lot of humans in their pictures. So this just happens. So it's very kind of strange line, to draw. I think it's more sensitive when it becomes commercial side. So I feel if it's some kind of a very big advertorial, which is very highly paid, and you want to shoot a place with local people, then I think those people should be paid for.
So people love the word authentic, authentic food, authentic neighborhoods, authentic culture. But authentic often means what the outsider expects to see. When you hear authenticity in travel imagery, what do you think it usually means and what does it miss?
Okay, authenticity in travel imagery. I think it's often associated with couple of things. Maybe like a picture that is not commonly seen, original, or a picture that shows the place without the tourists, like more with locals and as it is. I think that's the perception that goes around authentic. So let's say, but again, there is a thing with these quote unquote authentic places. When they become really famous and not what they naturally are, they sometimes local people themselves come up with idea to commercialize them. For example, I've been to Sri Lanka and I've done photography fashion shoot for a magazine with a model. And we asked local guys to pose for us with a stilt fishing. So they climb on this wooden stilts, which look impossible to sit on. They sit there and they fish. So we like kind of hired them to be in the photograph. But it's not only us. Apparently, I found out that they don't actually fish that much this way anymore because it became such a photogenic thing that they are making more money by asking to be paid to be photographed by tourists. So again, is this scene authentic anymore? Not so much probably, because it's not what actually happens to day-to-day life. So coming to authenticity, I would say it's a picture that portrays some everyday tradition or everyday life that actually happens without any staging for the viewer.
You mentioned you are not deeply familiar with the full range of tourism board collaboration models, but you have had at least one sponsor the trip experience. From that small taste, what did you notice about how institutions want places to be seen, even subtly?
Okay, yes. So I only have experience with one tourism board so far. And also, the trip was planned by one of the group members who travels a lot. And I didn't even have a chance to directly communicate with them, but we had kind of guidelines of what they wanted as a deliverables. So we definitely visited touristy spots, you can say. So I believe that tourism boards, they try to promote a place and they would love people to see their most amazing cultural, historical, natural sites. So that's where we went. But it was a really great mixture because we got to see the capital. We went to deep mountains in a very local village far away where it takes hours to get to. We went to another city which was completely different from capital. So it was a good range of things to see. And in this particular trip, I didn't feel like it was just see the must-sees and that's it. We had our also spare time where we could do whatever we want, and we were not limited as photographers what to take pictures or what not to take pictures. But we visited the main sites that the tourism board wanted to promote, of course. So yeah, of course they want the place to be shown in an attractive way for the travelers.
To close, I want to bring this back to the purpose of the show. If a listener wants to become more literate in images, read travel photography the way they might read a text, what's one habit you'd recommend they practice for the next month?
To slow down and look at an image which catches their attention and think why it caught their attention, what feeling, what initial feeling the picture gave them. And then see more of the things like what's the subject, what's the composition, what's the lighting, what's the color scheme, and why it works, and why it gives them a certain curiosity about that particular frame that they see.
Where should people follow your work?
So I have a travel blog called theroadreel.com, reel as in a movie reel, where I share guides and itineraries to the places I traveled. And it's a lot of visuals, of course, a lot of travel photography there. So that's my passion project. And otherwise, I also have a professional website called aography.com where they can see my professional work. And both of them have Instagrams of the same names.
I'll link it in the show notes as well.
Thank
For
you.
listeners, that's the road reel, theroadreel.com, and the other one is aography.com. Ausra, thank you. This was exactly the kind of conversation I want more of, treating images not as neutral windows, but as translations with consequences. And to everyone listening, this episode gave you a new way to look at travel photography. Share it with someone who is planning a trip or someone who thinks photos are just photos. I'm Ali Al Haji, and this is Reading the World, قراءة العالم. Until next time, read slowly, listen carefully, and avoid the shortcut.